Yeah,
20
welcome
minutes.
everybody. This is another day and good evening, everyone. It's a Saturday evening. This is the third session of Dr. Harpreet Gujral. She's joined us from Johns Hopkins and she's been with us. The first session we had our nursing practitioners from PGI who interacted with her about the challenges and the opportunities of COVID-19. And yesterday she spent a lot of time discussing about gratitude. This was very nice, and we had a lot of discussion today about the talk yesterday, and we are very happy that she's spared time to be with us again. She's, as you all know, a nurse practitioner, and she's a doctorate in nursing. She works at the Johns Hopkins University and a part of the Integrative Center, of which she was one of the founding faculty. And she's been working tirelessly to take the integrative approach to healthcare. And today she's going to be talking of another topic which is of so much relevance to our personality development, of our views of our own self. And this is self-compassion. And she acknowledges the contribution of Dr. Kristen Neff, who has conceptualized what self-compassion is and how it should be followed. So without much ado, we welcome you, Harpreet, to
Thank you.
join us. And this is not an interactive session. You can give your talk, your thoughts, and we'll all listen from here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Akshay. Really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and open up my presentation here. So, you know why I got interested in self-compassion is because I noticed that I was my biggest critic. And I thought that the more I push myself, you know, to achieve, I mean, I'm Indian, right? So as Indians, you know, growing up in the family in Delhi, my parents were always encouraging us to do more, be more, work hard, you know, good work ethics. And I thought that being a self-critic was part of that, so I could get to do more. And I expected more of myself, so then I can achieve more. But in doing so, I was realizing that I was actually shortchanging myself. And that in doing so, I realized that, you know, I was actually causing more problems. So I'm going to share my screen here so we can all see what I'm seeing. And let me just go ahead and go in here. So it was really important for me to then say, okay, oh, this is work of Dr. Kristen Neff on self-compassion. And this has really helped me. And I'll go into further detail as we go into the slides. So I'm really grateful for this platform to talk about, you know, most of us are maybe type A, high achievers, expecting ourselves to do more in this world, which is all good. And yet I think it's important for us to recognize how can we do more without less suffering. So we want to just talk about self-compassion. Kristen Neff, Dr. Kristen Neff was at University of Texas as a professor, and she's a PhD scientist. And she's been very generous with her concept of self-compassion, and her website has tons of resources. So I'll share that in the end. We also want to talk about the three principles, components of self-compassion. Let's talk about then the benefits, and we'll talk about a little bit, you know, if time permits, we can do a practice of, you know, compassion as well, and I'll provide resources. So what is self-compassion? Self-compassion is not self-pity, it's not narcissistic behavior, it's not self-indulgence, and it's not selfish. It is the permission that we give to ourselves of being kind to ourselves. So ask, you know, yourself, what is your dialogue? What is your monologue to you? Like, how do you speak with yourself? Is it as good as you might speak with your best friend who you adore, admire, always encourage to do their best work? Is this how you treat yourself? Or, you know, if you spoke the way you spoke to yourself, I mean, your friends will all run away because you've been unkind. So I think it's really important to give ourselves the permission to be compassionate and be kind to ourselves. I've been doing some breathing sessions for the last 3 months for COVID pandemic for Hopkins, and I do 3 sessions in the morning. It's 15 minutes, and we breathe, but we talk about gratitude and self-kindness. I think it's so important because these are free, tools that we can cultivate and really enhance and optimize our gifts that we give to the world. So Kristen Neff is the person who actually talks about that. I wouldn't go into the video, but there are several YouTube videos for Dr. Kristen Neff. It's Kristen Neff. So what is self-compassion? The three components of self-compassion. One is self-kindness versus self-judgment. Like I was saying in the beginning, over the years, I thought self-critic was actually a productive thing for me to do my best work. And yet I realized by being my own worst critic, I was shutting down myself. I was second guessing myself. I was doubting and not putting myself out there. A lot of times with our self-criticism, we actually start to build this ceiling and think that, oh, I can't go above this. Like, this is my middle-class family. This is my middle-class, a way of doing things. And this is all I can do. Just like my, parents, grandparents, and I should not even seek to, rise above. And only to notice that this ceiling is imaginary. As soon as we start to be self-kind and we start to use these practices and start believing in ourselves versus being our own critic, we're able to break that ceiling. It's just an imaginary, maybe it's made out of just like an egg shell membrane. It's so thin that you can just break open. It looks like something real, but it can be easily won over. The second component is common humanity versus isolation. And I'll speak to that. The mindfulness versus over-identification. So let's go into detail of each one of these. So self-kindness versus self-judgment. Am I giving myself permission to be kind? For example, let's say yesterday we talked about, stress reduction. We talked about, what tools are there to help with our stress reduction. And, I forgot to say namaste. I forgot to say namaste in Hindi. And then when I watched the video, I was like, oh, I can't believe I forgot to say namaste. Like, how to say it in Hindi? Come on, Harpreet, you're Indian. You should be fluent in Hindi, which I am. And yet there was a moment. So instead of judging myself and saying, Harpreet, you're such a failure. You cannot do these things. Why do you even sign up to do these things? Instead, I was like, I laughed about that. And I said, okay, Harpreet, so for tomorrow, what can you do differently? So prepare more, but also with kindness and non-judgment. Because what I notice is when I come from that space of self-kindness, I can forgive others so much easily because I know that we're coming from love and caring for each other and respect and kindness. There's less suffering. I suffer less without worrying, like, why did this person say this? Why did this happen? I'm even more caring. So we have less suffering, we have less failure, we don't feel inadequate, and we're ready to go do what we need to do and achieve in this world. We take chances in doing things that may make us feel uncomfortable. And what happens is self-compassionate people, they know we're imperfect. I always was seeking perfection. And if you've heard of Brene Brown's work, Brene, B-R-E-N-E, Brown's work, she's a sociologist, a PhD sociologist who's world-renowned now. And her work has just been amazing. And she talks about perfection, shame, and guilt. So those are the three things that she's really worked hard. And now she talks about how do you dare to lead greatly, So these are important things because perfection is the killer of creativity. If I need to have perfect solution, I may not be very creative because I feel like I need to be in this box. But if I can just be creative and say, you know what, it's okay, I can fail and fail fast so I can then succeed. And it's okay to be imperfect. And we don't worry about failing because we take our chances, we prepare, give it our best shot, give it 100%, 110%, and then outcomes, whatever those are. We can, Thomas Edison did 1,000 ways to how not to do a bulb, how not to just, invent a bulb. And he was okay with that. So we are more gentle with ourselves when we can make play and laughter with that. I can laugh at myself. I mean, remember how His Holiness Dalai Lama, when he was on this platform, I mean, he laughs like a baby. You know, it's okay to laugh at ourselves. We don't need to laugh at others. We can laugh with others. So it's really important, instead of being angry with ourselves, to laugh and say, it's okay. You'll do better next time. And what do you need to do? So have a good plan for that. So common humanity versus isolation. Now, this is where what happens is, if I say I'm the only one who's made these mistakes, nobody would ever make such silly mistakes. How could I do this? This is where we isolate ourselves. And as mammals, we are interconnected. Like yesterday, we were talking about Mother Teresa, who said, you know, it's really important for us to feel the connection we have with each other. So when I think that I am outside of the group, I am separate from group because I'm so bad, I'm so inefficient, I made so many mistakes, and the rest of the group is so perfect, everybody's doing so well, that I might isolate myself. And that's like the biggest suffering, because as human beings, we are, our pack people, we are a tribe people. And so it's really, really important, especially coming from India. I mean, we feel like, we have to take care of ourselves. Like Dan Siegel, one of the scientists, he's a psychiatrist, a child psychiatrist, Dan Siegel, S-E-I-G-E-L. He talks about we. He says me and we together is MWE, M-W-E. I think that's just beautiful to show the connection we have with each other. So it's really important not to isolate ourselves, and otherwise we get frustrated. So recognizing that personal inadequacy is just part of human behavior. Everybody's imperfect. Everybody's trying their best. And yet they're not, superhuman beings. We're all regular human beings, same DNA, same blood. So I think it's really important that I'm not alone. The third component of self-compassion is mindfulness over identification. So mindfulness is when these thoughts come by, these negative thoughts come by and go, oh, Harpreet, you are so oh, you can't do this. Like, why did you sign up for this? And I see this as a thought, as a cloud just passing by. And I'm like, wow, the brain just, the mind thinks these amazing things, and some of them are productive, some of them are not productive. But if I am, as I was mentioning yesterday, mindfully present to the present moment without judgment, and I notice these clouds go by, I'm not judging the clouds of self-inadequacy, of criticism. I'm just seeing them pass by, and I'm steady in my presence of present moment, noticing all of that's happening. I'm actually not swayed by this. I don't get affected by that. So I'm being mindfully present versus being over-identified by that cloud of self-critic, of imperfection, of how bad I was. So that allows us then to say, there's no judgment. We are receptive, growth mindset, and we are observing our thoughts and feelings. So through mindfulness, as Dr. Anand mentioned, I'm getting my mindfulness teacher training certificate. I'll graduate in February. So I love to be a lifelong learner. What we find is that through that mindfulness, I can sit with my sadness. We didn't sign a contract when we came down and we said, we're going to have perfect life. We're going to have everything we want. We're going to have no losses. We're going to have just how much energy I put in is the output is going to be the same. No, there is no contract. There's no warranties, no contracts. And human suffering is it's a regular fact. I mean, that's what His Holiness was talking about, suffering. Suffering happens. And amidst that suffering, can I sit with it mindfully? And, most of us are fixers. We fix problems. So when something happens, we're like, okay, how do I need to fix it? And yet, instead, can I just sit with myself and just notice, place my hand on my heart and say, you know what, this is really hard. This is really difficult. I'm feeling a lot of emotions. I'm feeling a lot of feelings. Through this pandemic, so many losses, so many challenges, financial, health problems in our society. There's so much going on. How do we maintain self-compassion? As we do that, we're able to care for our societies in such better way, and we can rebuild our society globally as a planet. We can rebuild this through self-compassion. So when we hold ourselves with this kindness, and as mammals, we know, like you'll see monkeys, mother monkeys holding the baby monkeys, and they're just cuddling them, holding them next to their chest. They stroke them and fix them and take care of them and groom them. We are made for touch. So right now, even more so than ever, there is no hugs, there's no touch, there's no handshake, there's only namaste, which our ancestors knew. Namaste is the best way to bow to the other person, the God in the other person, and have not make that social contact, that social touch, in a physical touch. So I think what's important also is, amidst this social distancing, we have to recognize that self-soothing is really important, which means I can place a hand on my heart and say, Harpreet, this is really hard. I'm here. We can just sit with this and notice if the tears need to come, if upset needs to come, there's anger, just sit with it. Rumi has a beautiful poem on Guest House, and he talks about like this, letting all emotions just come, bring them into your house and call them for a tea, like have them just sit down for tea. So it's really important. Another way of self-soothing for self-compassion is holding your hands like this. Like if you're in a meeting, and you want to soothe yourself, you may not sort of socially be allowed to place your hand on your heart area, right? So you could just hold your hands in this way. This could be cultivated, and you have your hands below a desk, and you're talking and you're saying, this is really hard. I'm really being very critic of myself. And I have my hands holding my hands. And because I've cultivated self-compassion previously, I know what this means to me. I can just hold my hands and say, Harpreet, I'm here for you. It's okay. And so I can feel that physical touch that helps us soothe ourselves. It helps the autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic, the parasympathetic. They're, both are, in more coherence. And so we have the rest, digest, repair mode also happening. So that really helps us. I hope this really hit home. I hope some of you understand. Maybe others are very compassionate with themselves and they might say, okay, we're bored here. But some of us will really see that the work in self-compassion is utmost important if we can love this world. If we need to make this world a better place, I think it has to start, charity starts from home. We must take care of ourselves first so we can care for others. Self-compassion quiz is on website. It's on self-compassion.org. And that's on this website. You can see on this slide. So you can take the compassion quiz and find out how compassionate you are. It's pretty cool. And then start to practice like the self-soothing, mindfulness, sitting with emotions, difficult emotions, and then take the quiz again. So I found there was a difference between when I started before. It was really hard for me to sit and even look in the mirror. I could easily say, oh, Harpreet, this is wrong, that's wrong, this is wrong. And now I can look in the mirror when I'm brushing my teeth. I go, Harpreet, I care about you. I love you. It's not in a narcissistic way. It's really about deep caring. It's like the best friend we have. This body has been given as a gift to us. And so we've got to take care of the soul, the body, the mind. This is, the way we say thanks to our God, our, Bhagwan, Guru. So the benefits are that we have better health. Can you imagine if we were looking into these components and practice this on a daily basis? We would have better physical health because the brain just follows what the body is saying, soothing. The brain says, oh, we are safe. We produce all the chemicals that are going to actually help us feel relaxed and feel cared for and nurtured. We also are better at coping and resilience. Really bad things are happening in the world right now. And how do we cultivate these tools to be resilient so we can cope and show up in the world to be, to be of use? We are better motivated when we are kind to ourselves. It's the self-critic that puts us down, that really just, nags at our soul. And that is the biggest suffering. Self-critic, self-judgment, unkindness to ourselves is the most suffering. It causes the most suffering. And we don't realize it because we're thinking we're trying to make ourselves better by pushing ourselves and being our own critic. But it's really important to be kind instead. And it actually makes us more accountable. So it's not like we, go like as a flower and forget about, accountability. It actually makes us more accountable because we're not putting this energy into suffering. We're actually putting this energy, we're depositing those coins into accountability, motivation, care for ourselves. It's like being our own coach. And we have healthier body image, healthy eating. We don't emotionally eat then, because what happens is a lot of times for some of us, food becomes an addiction because we're soothing ourselves instead of, the self-critic is talking and we're soothing ourselves by eating food. Instead, if we can just soothe ourselves with physical touch, with reminder, not being over-identified with the emotions, the thoughts that fly by, we're able to actually be better nurtured and feel better nourished, and soothed. So Dr. Kristen Neff says, love, connection, and acceptance are your birthright. Isn't that beautiful? To claim them, you need only look within yourself. So if we can just look within ourselves, there is love, there is connection, and there's acceptance. And if it starts with me from inside, I can then give so much more to the world. I personally have realized there's so less suffering. And, the smile used to be a fake one initially, and now it's like a permanent thing. Mostly, I just, there's the smile that comes from inside because I'm trying to be as kind and, give myself as much love as possible. I really thank you for your attention. Please take a moment to take the quiz, go to the website, take the quiz. If you are interested in Dr. Kristen Neff's work, her book is called Self-Compassion. It's a beautiful book. And so anyways, I thank you for your attention. And the quote in here says, each day that I wake, I give thanks. And I give thanks to you. Thank you for all the work you're doing in this world. And I appreciate it. Thank you. Back over to you, Dr. Anand. Hi. So I'll stop here and I'll just leave the resources on as we finish up. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for coming in the behalf of Integrative Medicine Case Report and on the behalf of Yoga Scholar PGI Emir. So thank you very much, ma'am, for joining and giving this such a nice talk last 3 days. So we enjoyed your talk and
Thank you so much.
thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Have a nice evening. Take care. Bye now. Thank you.
Take care, ma'am.
Bye-bye.